You're live with the App Show. Mike Agerbo here. I've got my fellow app nerds, Graham Williams, John Biehler. Got a pretty cool show. We will be talking about Instagram today. If you are an Instagram user or thinking about getting into it, we're going to show you or tell you how to use some popular apps to get your best Instagram photos going on. We've got Laura Denton from the team coming on to chat all about it. There's some really cool stuff. We'll also be chatting with Gary Steeves. He's our accessibility contributor. He's also one of the hosts of the App TV show on accessible media. We're going to be talking about indoor navigation. I think we're all pretty familiar with GPSs and using our smartphones with Google Maps or Apple Maps to get around, but more and more indoor places are getting mapped as well, and that's fantastic for people that have accessibility needs, that have low vision, who are blind as well. So we'll be talking about some of the apps and technologies that are making that happen. And we've got a Signal primer. We're going to be talking about Signal, a messaging app that you should really know about. Let's start off with some of the news, guys. And I think the first one for me, which I was kind of excited about, is Amazon Prime Video now has individual user profiles. And my big question is, why did it take so long? So, you know, when you go into Netflix, you can choose between you or your wife or your kids and their different profiles. Amazon hasn't had that, but now it's happening.
This is well overdue, and actually just in time for the return of one of my favorite series. Have you guys watched The Boys?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, this is a show that has just a fantastic cast, a great storyline, and more violence than you could possibly shake a cape at.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got nothing on the comic books. The comic books, if you're out there and you're a little squeamish, don't bother. Garth Ennis is the guy who did this, and they did a great run on The Punisher as well. But it's quite, extreme. And so the idea there that you don't have control over what your kids are watching, I think for Amazon consumers was probably very concerning. So now you do.
So each account will have up to 6 user profiles. You'll have the primary account, and then 5 additional profiles are allowed. So like to your point, Graham, this will be good. If it's your profile and you're watching murder mysteries, then it's going to recommend, shows that you might be interested in, shows and movies for that matter. So anyway, kind of a cool thing. Talking about video, a lot more of us are streaming 4K video, which is like the ultimate in quality for video. Of course, you have to have a 4K TV and a subscription to like a Netflix or YouTube or whatever that offers 4K video shows and movies. But it takes up a lot of bandwidth, as you can imagine. The file sizes are huge, and so what they do as far as technology is concerned is they come up with these video codecs, ways to compress that video down as much as they can so it doesn't take up as much room when they're shooting it through the internet to your home and your TV. So there's a new one out from Fraunhofer. Did I say that right, John? That promises.
Sure.
It's a little more German. Fraunhofer.
Yeah.
Fraunhofer.
A little bit more Hogan's Heroes in there.
Got it. It's called H.266, and it promises to cut streaming 4K video in half, which is amazing.
Well, we already saw a pretty dramatic reduction in file sizes without reduction in quality with H.265, and this is supposed to be even better than that. And they're calling it versatile video coding. VVC is the new format name for it.
Yeah, with VVC. The big one here is that Google has been using VP9 for the longest time, right? And this is their own special sauce, which is great, but they haven't been baking it into things that I would say a sizable chunk of the user base uses, which is some of Apple's products. And so on the Apple TV, if you've been watching YouTube, you've been stuck at 1080p, despite the fact that you've got an Apple TV 4K and a beautiful 4K television sitting in your living room staring at you at 1080p. No, I'm not bitter. I'm better. So H.266, this is a conglomeration of a number of companies, Sony, Apple, Google is in there as well. The problem with H.265 was licensing, right? So Google developed VP9 because I'm going to be brutal about this. They're cheap. And so they wanted to have this thing that they own and that they control, that they can dictate how people are going to use. And I think they felt like they could kind of swing their weight around a little bit.
It's kind of like a VHS beta kind of.
Yeah, and Google got baited.
They got baited. But is that because they have YouTube and they're probably one of the biggest video streaming places in the world?
Yeah, and of course, if you're now paying to encode all of that video in H.265, it would have cost them a small fortune. So the smart money here for everyone is to make H.266 more compatible and to make it something that's cheaper to use for Google as well, so we can all get on the same page and not have yet another, in quotations, standard that ain't standard.
For all the normal people out there that don't know what we're talking about right now, your TVs are still going to work great. And this is just a future type of video compression that's going to hopefully make file sizes smaller and more efficient. Okay, let's move on to something else that was kind of exciting. John and I had a chance to check out some new phones from TCL. They're the people that make the TVs. And not everyone's familiar with that name yet, but they are the #1 TV manufacturer in North America. They beat everyone: Samsung, Sony, LG, everyone. So they are now getting into smartphones, and they released or are releasing 2 new ones coming out this week: the TCL 10L and the TCL 10 Pro. And the cheaper one's $350, and the more expensive one's $700. But overall, some nice phones with some good specs in it. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we saw this with other companies like Huawei, where they would come into the market with a really competitive, in some cases, groundbreaking piece of technology and offer at a lower cost than our typical flagships from Samsung or Apple, that type of thing. And the TCL phones, they're kind of mid-range phones. They're not, super fast demons, but they have some pretty cool features that are kind of unique that we haven't seen in other ones. One of the ones that I think you and I both agreed was kind of cool was they have something called Super Bluetooth mode, where you can actually pair up to 4 sets of headsets or speakers. So you can actually have like this full surround sound mobile party happening with you and your friends, or you can move a bunch of speakers around your house and have those all connected to your smartphone, which is a kind of a cool feature.
Well, I had a chance to talk about them on Global BC this past week. One of the interesting things for us as well, for a limited time, and hopefully the offer is up on their website because I already kind of promoted this. If you buy the Pro version, that was $700, you get a free TV. You get a 43-inch TV.
Worth $300 Canadian.
Yeah, crazy.
Really?
Anyway, so a lot of people have been emailing me and calling me because they can't find this anywhere. The phones are launching this week coming up. The promotion, I believe, goes from the 16th till the end of the month, if I'm not mistaken.
It's the phones launch on July 10th.
Yeah.
And the promotion is if you buy between the 10th and the 16th, you have until the end of the month to redeem for your free TV. This is a promotion that TCL seems to have done in other countries, but now this is coming to Canada. So I think they're just waiting to turn on that website, which it may be live by the time this show airs. So
I was really hoping that the phone would come just with the TV kind of stuck to the back, like the boxes kind of stuck together. So phone get a TV.
Just taped, shrink wrapped.
I noticed that neither of you are on board with what I've been trying to get people to do, which is to not call it TCL, but call it Tickle. Then neither of you are picking up on that one.
No, we're not there yet.
Fair.
But
Okay.
We talk about it amongst ourselves too much, and it would just sound weird.
Yeah, okay. TCL it is. Got it.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to tell you how you can find your way even easier indoors now with some of the latest indoor mapping technologies. You're listening to the App Show here on the Chorus Radio Network. Back after this. You are back with the App Show. Mike Agerbo here with John Biehler. Still lots to talk about on today's program. In a little bit, we'll be chatting about Signal, a secure messaging software or app that you should look into. Let's talk about navigation. I think when we think of navigation, most of us in some way use GPS technology, whether that's in our car or on our smartphones. I think I use it, several times a day to, get the best routes to going to work or wherever. But do we think about indoor navigation? Well, Apple and Google for a while now have been actually mapping out big indoor spaces like shopping malls and airports. To help us understand the technology a little bit better and how it works, we've got our accessibility tech expert, Gary Steeves, on the line. He's also the host of Accessible Media's App TV. Thanks for joining us, Gary.
Thanks for having me.
So I have used some of the indoor navigation, especially when it comes to airports. I typically have done a lot of traveling in the past, and with my iPhone, I was able to, depending what airport I was in, actually check out, all the different restaurants and stores and things like that, and it was very, very helpful. But from what I understand, Apple and Google for a while actually had different standards when it came to indoor navigation.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the problems basically is getting, everybody has their own standard. How the silos of Apple and Google happen to always be there. So they've all agreed, Apple, Google, and some other main players in the indoor mapping world agreed on using a standardized format, which is really great because basically, once they start sharing that, then whatever Google's mapped or Apple's mapped, it'll be available to anybody using other software that can pull up these maps. So what we think about right now is we look at our phone and we use, Google Maps or Apple Maps to do our outdoor navigation, and now looking to our indoor navigation. For people with some, visual disability stuff, they might use a different app that will kind of help them with more audible clues to the indoors that they're going into.
Well, yeah, it was interesting. And again, Gary's written a great article up on our website that you should check out. It's at getconnectedmedia.com. And so there's a bunch of these companies now, including Google, Apple, Autodesk, the New York City Department of Technology, and many others. And they've got what's called the Open Geospatial Consortium. Sounds like a bad sci-fi villain group. But to your point there, Gary, I mean, Google and Apple have mapped, a lot of stuff, but it really doesn't cover everything, though, does it?
Well, no, and what's missing a lot of things too is kind of the accessibility options and aspects of a place. So in some places, there may be some really great things. There may be tactile pathways, but if you don't know they exist, then it's going to be hard to follow them and know where they're going. Or describing things to you too, like I don't know if you ever encountered in your travels places that have the elevators with the touch screens on them. Now, as a blind person, a touch screen on an elevator is just kind of, what do I do? But on an app like this, it will actually give you directions on, for example, hold the screen for 4 seconds and it'll come up with speaking options for you. So you can use some of the accessible technology that, as an example for me, I didn't even know that was there. So these kind of apps basically give you those kind of verbal directions and also navigating. So who hasn't been lost in a giant mall like Metrotown or in the airport, be you sighted or vision impaired. But with one of these apps, basically you'll be able to go in the main door, type in, you want to go to, find your favorite restaurant in the food court, and it will give you walking directions through the mall to get you to your destination.
And so you're not using the like Google Maps or Apple Maps for that. What are the apps that would be doing this?
There's a bunch of different ones out there. One's called Accessibuild, another one called Waymaps, Accessible Explorer, Blind Square. So there's a lot of apps out there. That's why getting the mapping data kind of universal is really important, so that people who develop different apps will be able to access all those same maps. They use why there's different apps, I guess, is because they use different ways of doing this. So some of them use what's called low energy Bluetooth transmitters, BTEs. And basically what happens is those are placed inside a building and they send out a signal that has information on it. So as you're approaching area, your phone, your app would get this information telling you, you're approaching the elevator banks, blah, 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 give you information about that. Other ones do it differently where they use LiDAR. I think you guys have talked about that on your show before, which is basically a kind of 3D mapping tool. And they map out the building that way. And then that's downloaded onto your app and use that as navigating you around. And another one that's out recently is basically they kind of find out where you are. And then they kind of guide you through, called tracing, I think it's called. They kind of guide you through the big spaces as well.
And how prevalent is this information? Like you're blind, Gary. Like, is this available in most buildings?
Well, doing my research for this, that's what I was finding out. I was kind of disappointed because I went to a seminar about 4 years about this, and it seemed super exciting. And I've seen there hasn't been tons of progress on this. So what I think is really going to change it in Canada is the Canada Accessibility Act just passed last year. And what that really means is that buildings, federal buildings, and industries that are governed by federal rules will have to look at accessibility. So in their structures, and so with that in mind, there'll be more of an appetite, I guess, for putting these kind of systems into their buildings. So right now, to be honest with you, it's not out there very much. It's pretty new. I talked to some places, Accessibuild, they have like 10, 15 buildings they've done. But with the Canada Accessibility Act moving forward, I think that's going to be a real movement, at least getting, some industries covered.
I think, Gary, too, the whole nature of this is that right now it's not a requirement for existing buildings, but any of these bigger organizations and federal buildings that you mentioned, it's part of their standards now to incorporate that. And presumably any new buildings would have to sort of build this in, like they have to currently, have like the Braille indicators for, the different buttons and that type of thing as well.
And there's different things going on, like Accessible Explorer has partnered with a company that puts light fixtures into airports. So when they're redoing airport lighting, they're putting in those Bluetooth transmitters.
Right.
And so that's another way where they're getting that built into the infrastructure.
Which is really cool, because then, those Bluetooth transmitters, that's, I think, as far as I understand it, it's part of the Apple Beacon project as well. Is that? That, yeah. But one of the things that you highlight in your blog post is going beyond these public spaces, though, because getting into an apartment building or someone else's that you're going to visit or something like that, those kinds of places need this as well. Not just the mall management that would have to sort of opt into some of these programs to map their mall out to make it more accessible, but also an individual building owner might have to consider this as well.
It's a good point, John, because Gary, you're probably not hanging out in malls all the time.
No, me and my guide dog have gone to Metrotown a couple of times and, found it very difficult to get out of Metrotown.
Yes.
We do too.
For sighted people, that's a problem as well. We're talking with Gary Steeves on navigation indoors and some really interesting apps and technology that's I guess available now and hopefully being incorporated into more and more buildings. Gary has written a great article up on our website if you want to find out more information about this technology and the apps available. And again, it's at getconnectedmedia.com. Gary, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It's great being here.
When we come back from the break, we're talking about Signal, a messaging program that you need to have. Back after this. You're back with the App Show. Mike, Graham, and John here. Don't forget to visit our website. It's getconnectedmedia.com. Up there, we have some great contests going, giving away thousands of dollars in prizes this year, and so easy to enter. Giving away this month an Alcatel Go Flip 3. This is a really cool little flip phone, and I would say this is good for people that need a phone. They don't want all the extra confusion of having to figure out how a smartphone works. It works like a normal phone, like the flip phones of old, but it also has a color LCD screen, and it can run some basic apps, things like a web browser. It's got Google Maps, Google Assistant built in. You can download WhatsApp and that kind of thing. And with the Google Assistant, you can use your voice to type the words in if you need to for websites and whatever. So it's super cool. So again, if you want to try to win this thing, Alcatel Go Flip 3, up on our website, getconnectedmedia.com. You can find out more information about there as well. If you can't wait, you can go buy one, of course. And just subscribe to our newsletter. That's all we're asking, and you'll be entered to win. Okay, it's Signal time, guys. This is a messaging app, and we're going to kind of give you the basics, a primer of what this is all about and why you might or maybe should be using it. Graham, we'll start off with you. Give us the lowdown.
So basically, if you're using a messaging app right now, chances are you're using one of a couple of different choices, right? You've got, if you're on iPhone, you've got iMessage. If you are on Android, you may be using SMS or one of the, I don't even know how many Google text messaging apps there are now. But a lot of folks have decided to go with Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. And I got to say, they're not secure. And we've seen a lot of companies in the last little while kind of say, you know what, Facebook, you need to change some things here. And if you've ever kind of looked at Facebook and thought, you know a little too much about me, it's because you're using WhatsApp and it's because you're using Messenger. So Signal is this great cross-platform messaging app that is secure. It's end-to-end encrypted. It's open source. It's all of the good things that nerds really like to get excited about. And it's also a really great messaging platform. So all of the things that you do on Messenger right now. So let's talk about the stuff that you do, right? We message each other. We send text messages. We love to get things like read receipts. You can see when somebody's read your message. We like to be able to send voice messages. We like to be able to send stickers. We like to be able to reply to messages as people send them, so you can reply in line.
Wait, do we actually like to send stickers?
I like to send stickers. You don't like to send stickers?
Graham likes to send stickers. Yeah, I'm not a big sticker guy.
Okay, so maybe that's not the main selling feature here. We do also like to do things like have group chats. We like to be able to drop out of a group chat. That's something that you can't do on an SMS conversation. And we also like to be able to make phone calls and video calls. So as you might guess, Signal does all of this stuff, and it doesn't just do it on your phone, whether it's an iPhone or Android. It will also do this on your desktop if you're using Windows or Mac OS. And so it's really, really easy to get started with this. Essentially, you need a phone number, so it is actually connected to your mobile number. If you're going to use it on desktop, your desktop will actually connect to the mobile app. You got to scan a QR code. Basically, you hold your phone up to the desktop app when it's open. It scans this little, bit of digital vomit, and suddenly they work together. So that's kind of the core of it. Now, it will give you a couple of really cool things as well. Right, you've got your profile in there, so you can set your picture. You can set what you want your name to be. You can also have, this is one of my favorite features, especially if you're doing things like, say for example, I do some client work and we've got things that are secure that you can't have kind of floating around in the world. You can set expiring messages from anywhere from 5 seconds, which is very Mission Impossible, to up to a day. So that's a really cool feature as well. Other cool stuff, it'll send things like location. So when we're talking about secure messaging now, end-to-end encrypted, that means that even Signal doesn't know what you're sending from one person to the next, unlike WhatsApp and unlike Facebook Messenger, which inherently Facebook is reading. Now, you can set both of those up to do end-to-end encryption. Have you guys used the secret conversation on Facebook or turned on end-to-end in WhatsApp?
I don't have the energy to try and figure out where that is because I'm sure it's not like easily accessible, is it?
Nobody else does either. And so that secret conversation, for one thing, actually only exists on the device that started it. So if you do try to use it on your phone with Facebook Messenger and then you jump to the desktop app, it doesn't show up there either. So Signal is actually a more full-featured app as well. And the price is actually really, really good. It's free.
I was going to point something out about that because my first question always is, well, why is it free? How is it free? But you already answered that question because it's an open source project.
Yeah. So basically, the nerds out there who value your privacy, hopefully just as much, if not more than you do, are working on this app to make sure that folks like Mr. Zuckerberg aren't reading your text messages and they're not digging into your personal life even more every single day. And so, this is a bit of a passion project. It's for people who are serious about safety and security, turning around to their family members and saying, you know what, maybe it's time that we take a step back from some of these apps that are invading our privacy. I made it a bit of a personal crusade in the last couple of weeks to say to friends, hey, you know what, we're talking on Messenger, and so why don't we head over to Signal? Because I'm on an iPhone, the folks that are on other iPhones, iMessage actually has the same security precautions built in. It does have that same end-to-end. Apple doesn't know what you're doing, so that's okay. Anybody that's on an Android, though, in my sphere, two things. One, I want them to be using this more secure messaging program. And two, I need to stop them sending text message groups that I can't get out of. So this is my plea to you. Start using Signal.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you, Graham. And I believe we'll have an article up on our website, getconnectedmedia.com, that goes through that a little bit more if you want to learn about Signal, the app. We're going to have to take a break. When we come back, more apps to talk about here on the App Show. Stay tuned. You're back with the App Show. Mike Agerbo here with John Biehler. Well, I think we all love to take photos with our smartphones. I literally take thousands now every year. I think I've got like 17,000 on my phone. And a lot of us post them on social media, things like Facebook and Instagram. Well, how do you get your best Instagram photos up and how to fix them? Well, we've got one of our GetConnected contributors, Laura Denton, here on the line. Thanks for joining us, Laura.
Hello.
So Instagram is one of the most popular photo sharing sites or social media platforms out there. But our pictures aren't always perfect. And Laura, I wanted to bring you on because to me, you're like the Instagram superstar. Your photos always look amazing. Where's the first place to start?
Well, I should add that it's just my professional Instagram. It's not a professional Instagram, nor am I a professional photographer, but I am a little addicted. So I like to take the photos to the next level. I'll always try with my camera phone first and see if I can grab it naturally and authentically, of course, and fix them up using the phone app first. Adjusting the horizontal and the crop and the exposure and using the manual tools in the phone first. And then, if that doesn't work, import those photos into a couple different apps.
So, for people that haven't used Instagram before, again, it is a social platform, but it does allow you to do some kind of basic editing of those photos and filters. But you're saying you then use additional apps to kind of take them to the next level.
Yes, I'll go from camera to app, fix them in the app, and then on Instagram, upload that finished photo.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It's a hobby.
It's a hobby. So what are some of the apps you're using here? Let's start.
So my favorite one, it has been around for a little while, but is Snapseed. And it has 29 photo editing tools from brightness and details and structure and curves that you'll often find in Photoshop, but it's right on your phone. So it makes it really easy. I think
I think one of the things we should point out too is that this app, Snapseed, like you said, has been around for a while. It was originally purchased by Google a little while ago because you used to have to pay for it, but now it's completely free and it's available for iOS and Android.
Thank you.
And so what makes this a good one for you, Laura? Like what does it do?
What I love is in most photo apps, as filters in Instagram or on your phone, they adjust your entire photo. So if you go to exposure or you put a filter over it, it does your entire photo. But in Snapseed, you can take sections of it. So for example, if you take a picture of your friends with a water background, and often that will be too much of a silhouette, then you have the opportunity to leave the background as in, but almost hand paint what you want, what images or what section of the image you want to adjust.
How difficult is this, Laura? Do you have to be like a photo expert, like a photo editing expert? No,
I wish I was. And I would probably be using Photoshop and things might be a lot faster in one click. It's just a fun, import your photo and then you can select in Snapseed the brush tool. And for example, like just pick a strip that you want to be more vivid or take a cloud that you want to bring out the saturation. Take out the silhouetted image and make it a silhouetted. Is that a word?
It is now.
And brighten it up. So it's like painting your photos.
Easily. Okay. So that particular app is called Snapseed. What are some of the other apps you're using here? What's the next one?
Well, Facetune gets a bad rep. I think Facetune is known for photo adjustments on your face. So Instagram stars and celebrities will get called out if they've taken their smooth tool too far and their patchwork too far, and they just become a sheet of glass. But you can use those same tools. The patch tool, for example, I've had a couple adventure photos in the mountains, and then all of a sudden there's a tree coming out of the back of my head. So I can use the patch tool instead of removing a pimple or something like that. You can remove that tree.
So it's good for trees and pimples.
It is. And the smooth tool, if you just want to blend something out a little bit more, which would maybe be used for skin, you can use it in other things too. So it's little cheats. Again, Photoshop, if you have that, would probably be a lot more professional. But you can use the Facetune app in different ways other than making your face look artificial.
And is this available on both platforms as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Very popular app.
I am going to check this Facetune out here because I don't always love my face. So I'm hoping you can fix it.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to lie. My friends always bug me because I'll always get in there and do a little something.
Okay. Well, now we know your secret. What's some other apps you use?
Well, the other one, and John and I were talking about this yesterday about do you want it, do you not want it, but the little white border that you put around your photos before putting them on Instagram. So that white border can be used on still photos with Witogram, and on video, you can use Square Ready.
So the white border, kind of like how we see in our old photos?
Yeah. So what it allows you to do is Instagram instantly crops your photos to a certain allowance. You have a photo that's vertical, take it with your phone, and it will crop it for you. It can only be so big. So the white border using these apps will allow you to have your full photo.
Yeah, Instagram normally is by default a square photo app. So no matter what way you photographed your image or even your video, it'll just give it a square by default. And like you said, Laura, we were talking about this yesterday. There's a little control that you can press in the bottom left corner that will allow you to sort of size it up to fit, but it doesn't always fit if you have a very tall photo, for example. I think it's better for horizontal video or a landscape photo, for example, where you want to fit a little bit more into it. But what you were saying is that when you do it with this app, it actually allows you to get the full height or width of the image, and then you have the white border around it, or you can change it to any color actually. But
you can, yeah. Witogram allows you to have, if you want to, put text over it, little squiggly lines, putting headlines over your photos.
Is that your crow friend in the background? You better get an Instagram picture of him. Okay, yes. So Witogram, great for putting the borders. And you talked about for video as well, the other one, which I believe was Square Ready, and I think version 5 here. And that's the thing that people have to realize. The Instagram videos and photos, they're square, so they have to be formatted that way. And so what's the great thing about Square Ready then?
So Square Ready I've used a couple times on my videos. I believe they have a still photo version as well that might replace your Witogram. But I've used it where if you have a crow in the background of your video and you don't need that sound, you can adjust the audio levels. So you can mute it out, you can add music, and the border is great, but the sound and the audio and the border is what I use it for.
Talking with Laura Denton, Instagram photo expert, one of our Get Connected producers and contributors. Thanks for joining us, Laura.
Thanks for having me.
You can read her entire review of these different apps and the links to them as well up on our website, getconnectedmedia.com. The blog is How to Fix Your Instagram Photos. When we come back, there's more apps to talk about here on the App Show. Back after this. You are back with the App Show. Mike Agerbo here with John Biehler and Graham Williams. We talked a little bit about this on the Get Connected show yesterday, John, and I just want to bring it up again because I love this feature. It's for LinkedIn, and Graham, you might not know about this, but they have its new feature where you can actually upload a 10-second audio clip of how to pronounce your name. Maybe not for you, Graham Williams, but for Mike Agerbo, yes, I've had my name butchered every imaginable way. But, there's a lot of complicated names out there, and I love this feature.
Siri thinks, and I've trained her a couple of times, but she thinks you're Mike Agerbo, which is a good one.
I don't know.
I do get it often, though, where people will say, is it Graham or is it Graham? And I usually get asked, like, how do you say your name? To which I usually reply, I don't, you do, so you pick.
Graham.
I'm good either way.
What were the two options?
Graham or Graham.
Oh. Graham Cracker.
Graham Cracker. Yeah,
well,
I'm good either way.
Well, you could put both of them up in your LinkedIn profile now. I love it. No, but this is great for me, as I was saying yesterday, because we always have guests on the show, but now I can go to their LinkedIn profile and hopefully they're using this. I can actually see how to pronounce their name properly so I don't sound like an idiot. Okay, I think we're out of time here, but I just want to promote the contest one more time. We're giving away an Alcatel Go Flip 3. This is a cool little flip phone that also has a basic app structure on it as well. It's not using Android. It's using something called Kai OS, apparently the same type of backend that the Firefox web browser uses. They have a little app store. So they've got things like Google Maps, YouTube, WhatsApp, a bunch of games. And you use Google Assistant to do the typing. I mean, you can use a little number pad on the bottom there, but as we know, that's a little bit taxing. Using your voice, you can enter in all the text. And again, if you want to try to win this, go to our website, getconnectedmedia.com, hit the newsletter tab, and subscribe to win. Our website's really great right now. We've got a lot of awesome articles on all the latest technology, lifestyle gadgets, and how-tos, and video and audio blogs. There's a lot going on there, and I really recommend that you check it out. I want to thank all the folks that helped put the show together. Of course, Graham and John, my wonderful co-hosts, and Christina, our producer. We'll see you again next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube page. And you know that little bell icon? Hit that and you'll be notified every time we post a new video. And comment. The more comments and the more likes and subscriptions we get, the more videos we can make.